Joining me are Cameron Milner, former Chief of Staff to Labor leader Bill Shorten and now Director of GXO Strategies, and Michael Costa, former New South Wales Labor Treasurer. First of all, Michael, is this a broken promise?
No, Andrew, there's no doubt it's a broken promise. What I think is more significant is we're seeing Albanese go back to the Eat the Rich placards that he used to run around with when he was a young left-winger in the Labor Party. I mean, look, the issue here is, yes, it's a broken promise, but it also doesn't address the very fundamental issue that he's talking about, that is cost of living. For those, if you believe the numbers that are floating around, for those that are in the bottom end, you might get enough for a pie a week, and if you're in the middle, you get 2 pies and a coffee. I mean, if he really thinks that's going to address the cost of living pressures that people are under, he's kidding himself. So he's going to face a double whammy here. One, he's broken his word. The trust issue is going to be paramount in any coming election campaign, but more importantly, he's not going to address the issues that he wants. And, you know, what's worse about all of this is that he had an option, and I think the option was to have more targeted cost of living measures out of the budget surplus and allow these tax cuts which were legislated to go through. Right. And they would have been time limited, and once the inflation came down, you would have been able to deal with it. The other thing is this package is mildly inflationary.
Let me go to Cameron Milner. Cameron Milner. But Albanese will have made these changes not because he had to, because he's got more money coming in than he expected, but because he wanted to, thinking it was fair and it would work for him politically. Will it?
Well, there's a big trap here. There's a wedge that Albanese has set up, and if Dutton doesn't be smart about it in terms of his response, he'll get trapped by this. So, there's a Dunkley by-election coming up, and Albanese would like to be the robber baron king, the Robin Hood of Frankston, and he'll paint Peter Dutton as the man who wants tax cuts for the rich. The Liberals have got to be smarter handling this one. Albo set up a ticking time bomb for the Liberals, and Dutton has to be smart. Dutton has to give the tax cuts to the low and middle income people, as well as restoring stage 3 tax cuts as he's promised.
Well, so that means matching any extra tax that Albanese will give to people under 190,000, but still maintain the tax cuts, stage 3 tax cuts for everyone else. That's going to cost a lot of money.
It will, but it's toxic if you vote against someone's tax decrease, especially with the cost of living crisis that we've got going. It might be a small amount of money, but people still want every last cent they can get, and especially in the current cost of living crisis we're in.
But Andrew, there is another strategy for it.
Go ahead.
Well, I think I agree with Cameron. I mean, the fact of the matter is he just should say that, look, this guy's broken his promise, but we're not going to stand in the way. However, I would be moving an amendment introducing tax indexation to deal with bracket creep and force that issue into the parliament, right, and that would wedge them. And I think that would be the tactic that I'd have if I was Dutton. Move an amendment, institutionalise tax indexation.
And Andrew, it's got to be all. Sorry. It's got to all be about Albo's broken promise. That's the central issue. That's what Dunkley by-election's got to be if Peter Dutton's smart. It'll be a referendum on whether Albo can be trusted.
Now, obviously, with the culture wars and all that, there's already plenty of people on the left cheering this on. And even playing the gender card, would you believe? Here's Richard Dennis of the Australia Institute on the ABC today.
Most of the hundreds of billions of dollars in stage 3 tax cuts are going to high-income earners, mainly men.
Now, Michael Costa, mainly men are the beneficiaries. That's a bad thing. Are these tax cuts sexist now?
Look, that's just absurd, but it highlights the fundamental problem that we've got here. We've got a whole bunch of institutions that are effectively left institutions that take the sort of equity side of the equity versus efficiency debate in tax. Now, these are the people that want equity. They don't realise that a subsistence economy has equity, but it has no proper standards of living. I mean, you've got to grow the pie, and the pie is really what it's all about. And, you know, I'm surprised at Chalmers. He did his PhD in political science on Paul Keating, and Paul Keating fundamentally understood that you've got to grow the pie. That's why we had all the labour market reform, all of the reforms of the Keating era. So he hasn't even understood the basic trade-offs and the reason that you've got to grow the pie so you can make the system deliver for everybody. No. So, you know, I wouldn't pay too much attention to this gender-based.
I agree with you. I haven't seen the growing of the pie at all. Instead, many more regulations and tax hits against business. Cameron Milner, by the way, where is Opposition Leader Peter Dutton? I mean, Anthony Albanese has really been back at work, giving interviews, press conference, calling Labor MPs to Canberra today, running like an Energizer bunny for the last few weeks, a listening tour of Australia. Peter Dutton seems to be still with his family on a break, although he is doing his weekly spot with Ray Hadley on 2GB, giving the odd bit of commentary, issuing a few press releases, but nothing like as frantically as Albanese. What does that tell you?
Oh, Albanese's panicked. Albanese has looked at the polls and worked out that he could lose the next federal election. He could lose the Dunkley by-election. Don't forget, of course, that Albanese spent his holidays not with his family, but drinking $500 bottles of wine. That's how he spent his holidays just before Christmas. I wish Peter Dutton all the best with his family, his wife, over this Christmas period, like so many families do. But no, the reality here is that Albo is running hard and running fast because he's panicked and he's really worried about what the electorate really thinks about what he's not done about the cost of living.